dream is coming to the end. Is fading, broken wings abroad the journey. Then your voice that led me safe thus far is fading from my ears. You were everything to me, a light to guide me in my darkest hour. Don't wanna say goodbye just yet, don't want to be alone. And then you come to hold me once again. I feel safe and closer unto me. If I could only travel back in time to peaceful days gone by. But this is my price to pay, to not survive beyond this very day. When we are near, there is no fear. I'm whole again as in days gone by, if only for a while. But it hurts to have to leave you so. I don't wanna go. Could this sacrifice cost me my life? Oh, tomorrow will not ever come. My night's begun, and I must travel far beyond to places yet unseen. Remember me and treasure every day. Even come what may, forget not the precious gift of time, I pray. Oh, just to live my life again, to treasure every little moment, then satisfied I'd leave you all behind, accepting of my fate. But I am full of grief to leave this life so incomplete. My dream is coming to the end.
This is something a little different, mostly because I told Twitter that I wanted to do this, because Guardian 3 came out, and really, I've been having issues with streaming software for one. Second, I didn't really want to stream it yet, mostly because I didn't finish Guardian 2. So instead, I've decided to do this little review of it. Now, it might not be so little, because it might go on for a little bit. Guardian 3 is, straight out of the gate, is way too expensive. Now, if you have Guardian 2, it's a little bit more lenient. I think I got it for $56 on Steam. That'd be Canadian dollars, so I think that's about $50 American. Not so sure. But $50 American, that was with a sale, with $6 off, and the 20% off discount for me owning Guardian 2. That's a little bit pushy. I got it because I'm a serious God Eater fan. So I'm going to already straight up say, if you don't already like God Eater, don't get God Eater 3. Simply because there's not enough there for you to get it. Unless you're really willing to risk it for maybe some updates. I'll be talking about the updates later. So firstly, as you may, if you've been on my other channel, my other channel has a God Eater Resurrection complete playthrough. I went through the whole game on stream. I went through number 1, the majority of number 1 on YouTube stream service. That was a bad idea. And I did the last episode, I think, on Twitch. So we had 2 episodes, basically 1 episode on Twitch, which was the last one, which was the big one for the Resurrection arc. I started number 2. I think I was about story 30 by the time of me writing this. And yeah, I just never continued it. I started doing other things on stream. Things got busy, so I really just kind of left it to the wayside. I'm probably going to go back to it at some point, so if I do go back to it, I will actually probably leave a link in the description of this video linking to my Twitch, which should have a few videos up for the Guardian 2 Rage Burst, no guarantee. Now, warning as well, if you don't know God Eater, then these spoilers probably won't matter too much to you. But if you know God Eater, and you know you're really going to want God Eater 3, spoiler warning. I'm probably going to spoil a good 50% of the major things that come out of the story. So to get started, this basic story is it's similar to Resurrection, but I feel good. I actually feel really good about it because no character dies. Yeah, sure, in Resurrection, in the burst scenario, that Lindo didn't live, actually was alive and all this mess. But that was because of reasons and not really important to this matter. Rage Burst, a character dies and once again does come back, but dies for majority of the story. Same thing with Resurrection. So it actually feels kind of nice to have a story that doesn't have a character dying. Even though I was kind of certain there was going to be a death, but I really didn't want it to happen because it hurt me to do so. It's a character that I actually grown very attached to simply because of how they portrayed them. The story is pretty generic, actually, especially for God Eater standards, but it's of some curveballs. You're never quite certain who the villain is, which is weird for the series. In God Eater Resurrection, it was very clear who the villain was in all of them. Well, there wasn't really a villain in the Burst and Resurrection arcs. It was just big Aragami. It was kind of like Monster Hunter in that way, but they kind of explain more in detail. In 2, you're almost always certain who the villain is. It's not quite so certain in the Rage Burst scenario, but you get figured out pretty quickly. In 3, they just throw curveballs at you constantly. Is it this person? Is it this person? It's eventually revealed that it's basically a combination of 3 people. One of them lovely gets taken out very early on, and you have a nice, good, triumphant thing about that, because that feels good. But the other 2, only one of them dies, and it's actually a matter of heroicism, and it's actually rather neat. So, within the main story, you have your character, blank Pennywort, male or female, Hugo, who is kind of your companion. He plays a kind of like brother figure, someone who tries you forward, but someone who's your like sidekick with almost. He's not the best character, I would say, but he's not someone that I wouldn't mind constantly being with. He is very handy in missions, though. I will say he's literally Lindo in disguise. He is that effective in a mission. Now, a lot of the opening and stuff like that kind of reveals a few things. You're an adaptive God Eater. Adaptive Aragami, that's something different and something way more annoying. An adaptive God Eater, an age for short, is simply someone who can basically work in the Ashlands with basically minimal difficulty. It's just simply how it is. Now, most of your crew will be ages. You get 2 normal God Eaters and a 3rd one after you beat the game. The first 2 are Gen 2 God Eaters, I think. And they both use a bias factor that makes them slightly more resilient to the Ashlands. No big deal. The main thing of the game is that it takes place in the Ashlands, which is in Europe, which is actually very interesting. Because we've always been in the Far East. Now we're in Europe. So it's a nice change of pace. I kind of miss the Far East because they had like the whole den. It was very nice and cozy. But I did also want to see some of the stages like in full HD. I think it would be really cool. But doing it this way makes it so they don't have any constraints. They don't have to remake any of the sieges. They just make a whole bunch of new ones. Don't have to worry about it, and don't have to worry about ignoring the fans or anything, because it's all new stages, all new regions. So good. I'm also kind of sad. Which I'm going to bring about is the God Eater, the Origami selection, because they're a little bit limited. Throughout the most of the story, you'll meet up with people, but one of them you eventually meet up with an ash crawler. An ash crawler is a vehicle that basically propels through most of the ashlands, so an age can get to their destination, and basically ports, the homes of these caravans of the ash crawlers, can basically get back and forth. It's not too bad. You eventually get picked up by the ash crawler's chrysanthemum after your port, a terrible port named Pennywarp, by the way, that literally was treating you like shit, decided to pick you up, and you started slowly working for them, and eventually you get bought by them, and you basically become part of their family. Ages are more like commodities. People, or actually not people, but things to sell and buy. Not quite slaves, but pretty close. More like prisoners, doing their daily labor. In your case, you eventually get freed, you eventually start working for them, you slowly start moving towards Hugo's goal, the person I was talking about earlier, of saving, basically creating like a port similar to the chrysanthemum that has a place where ages can belong without any bloodshed or anything like this, but they still do their jobs. They still occasionally go hunt origami because they're god eaters. What else would they do? With the most of the story, it's once again fairly basic and straightforward. You eventually get another age named Lulu. She has basically a way that you're going to get called an Excel trigger, which is basically Blood Rage, but really, really toned down. It's nowhere near as ridiculous as in Rage Burst. Rage Burst Blood Rage is broken, and it's literally broken. You're completely invincible. You don't run an OOP. Rage Burst is broken. Yeah, sure, it's really handy sometimes, but man, is it broken. In this, it's not quite as bad. You also have Burst Arts, which are very similar to Blood Arts. The only difference, you have to be in Rage to use them. I'm actually going to be talking about Blood Arts later on, because there's a certain character who actually has one. Actually, I'm pretty sure... Do the other two God Eaters have Blood Arts? No, I'm pretty sure they also have Burst Arts, but maybe they don't even have Burst Arts. I don't know. I have to go check. That was the one thing that I didn't do before writing the script. I'll have to do that later. But don't look at me like that. I know. I'll do it later. Now, most of the characters you pick up are fairly interesting and have their own little story to them. Claire, for example, is your healer type. She uses a charge spear. If you've ever been looking at any God Eater 3 material, you would have seen her. She's fairly prominent in the story. She was a member of Gleipnir and then ditches them because she much prefers being with the Chrysanthemum and proves that she's more useful that way. The other age you get is Ricardo, but not age, the normal God Eater is Ricardo. He's not too important as a story. Zeke Pennywort is another one of the ages that was with you. He's the Boost Hammer. He has his own... his brother is a part of the story. He went missing when he was younger. Not really that much of a big deal. So the story is simply you pushing forward an age-forward agenda, but not pushing everyone to the side. And that's kind of the mentality you get from both sides of the villains. One of them tries to push ages first and only ages. You like normal humans, go ghost in the pile. You deserve to die. The other side is ages are tools, and they're to be used to destroy the Ashlands, which both views are, in this case, incorrect and should not be thought of. You eventually meet someone who's completely cute and adorable, and she's legitimately one of the few reasons why I was going, I can suffer through the terrible hop speed. I'll be getting to that. With you. You get a little origami child, similar to Shio. If you've seen Resurrection, you'll know Shio. Actually, this game opens on the blue moon, like on the moon that Shio made. I was feeling so nostalgic, it was making me bloody love myself. Theme. I was trying to say Shio. Wow. Even if it's scripted, it's not going to be perfect. Theme is a origami child, basically a humanoid origami, similar to Shio. However, she is not a singularity. Humanoid origami are a lot more common now. Theme uses a god arc. She uses a heavy moon, and an assault gun, I believe. So basically, what you did, you gave the tiniest person you have with you the biggest possible weapon you could think of, which is kind of funny. In combat, she's very useful. In the story, she seeks prominence, and throughout the entire game, she follows you around because she thinks you are hers mother or father, and it is literally adorable. Like, they even did, like, because how often she's with you, they even made it so that when she steps, you have another here of another metal, like, tap. It's amazing. I love it. So good. And it's actually very sad because she chooses to sacrifice herself in place of Ages to go save you. And you feel really sad and all that. However, she doesn't die. As I said, spoilers and all that mess. To end up finally, the end of everything. The final bit. The arc is enjoyable. However, I don't really want to put a final statement on it yet, because apparently there's going to be more. Also, another spoiler, the story isn't told from your character's point of view. It's not. It's actually, usually it is. If you actually go listen to the narration in Resurrection and 2, it's told from your character's point of view. 3 isn't narrated by you. It's narrated by Ein, aka Soma, from the first 2 games, which is strange, especially in comparison to some of the other things we've had throughout the other games, where Soma had a little bit of involvement with the narration, but that was only really in 1, and it was only a little bit. In 2, whenever there's narration required, he's the one who does it. And it's like, wait, hold on, is this game being told from his point of view? And it's kind of clear that it is, especially since the game technically ends on not a cliffhanger, but like kind of like a gimme. Like, come on, give me more. It ends like pretty happily with a standard ending, but with Soma basically stating how everything happens. And then after that finishes, after the credits, you can go back to the chrysanthemum, and he'll be in the lobby. In the lobby, which is a small area where you do stuff, he will basically state that he will be useful. If you go to his character screen, he is the only character to have a blood art, as I said. That I know of anyway. I need to check the other ones. But it's very clear it's a blood art. It actually shares the exact same icon it had in God Eater 2 Rage Burst. How do I know this? I actually spent the time to try and get Soma's blood art. It's a really good blood art, but man, it took a long time to get. Because he's one of the few characters that he doesn't get it immediately when he does start doing side quests. That's my own problem with Rage Burst, has too many side quests. So, 3Y story, pretty good. I've gone over the characters, so I'm not going to go over them again. I want to go over origami selection. Now, as you know, God Eater has less of a selection of monsters than Monster Hunter. No doubt, except for Monster Hunter World, that has literally shit all in monsters. God Eater 1 has a good selection. It's not an incredibly large amount, but it's a good amount. God Eater 2 had so many large origami, I have no idea how we kept track of them all. There's quite a few medium as well, but there's way too many large. God Eater 3 it tries to do a happy medium of the two. It has a very good selection of medium origami and a fair amount of large. However, it lacks a lot of the large origami that I really enjoy. It has some of the ones that I also enjoy. For a good example, is Quadriga. That one's a nice appearance. Vajra is a classic. One that I hate with Dice Peter, but one I also very much like is Hannibal and Caligula. Those are two that I really much like, especially since they're very close to each other. I'm kind of sad that they didn't bring in some of the other ones. For example, Corrupted Hannibal. That's Corrosive Hannibal. That's not in the game. Blitz Hannibal. That's not in the game. The other Pita, that's like the ice Vajra, which I should have looked up before I started writing. Oh well. It's going to stick in the stick book anyway. That thing. Let's see, what are a few of the others? The Fallen Sariel. Can't really think of any others off the top of my head. But the medium origami is also lacking. Even though there's actually quite a few new ones that actually quite complement the medium selection very well, we lose the Fallen Goboro, both varieties. The Fallen Jingyu, which is... I'm actually kind of happy for it because I hated that thing. And of course the Sekhmet, almost all the Deus Phages, almost all of the Scions are gone. But the Marduk's in there. And it completely acts like a Scion, which is the weird thing. Now, rest of the large origami, it was lacking, but they made it up with Ashborns. Ashborns are usually large origami. Actually, no, they're only large origami now that I think about it, because they're the only ones I can devour. They're only large origami that can basically devour you and enter burst status. There is 6 of them, not including the final boss. The final boss doesn't count. Even though it technically does, it does have a burst, and it does devour you. So, kind of 50-50. Most of the time, it's fairly reasonable of a fight. Except for one of them where it's fucking bullshit. I'm looking at you, Anubis. I'm looking at you. Well, to be fair, it is the main monster of God Eater 3. You probably saw it in trailers. It is annoying to fight, but it is not too bad. Once you get used to Devourers, it's not too bad. Now, I've gone over the origami selection. It's fairly decent. It's not the best, but it's fairly decent. Especially since if there's going to be new updates, maybe they'll bring in some of the older ones. Oh yeah, the one I didn't mention. The Chrome Gawain. Why? Why is that in this game? Chrome Gawain is bloody a nuisance. It's my least favorite origami, but it's also my favorite. It sucks. Okay. Now, I would go over weapon selection, but there's so many different varieties of weapons in this game that is bloody ridiculous. Really, there's all to say is now there's dual blade that's basically charge blade put together with them, making them really, really stupidly broken. I've never used them, simply because they don't interest me. And Heavy Moon, which is basically a circle that turns into an axe. So, it's something good. It's not for everyone, but it's something good. So I would finally like to go over mechanics. Well, not just mechanics, but a few other things. Mechanics in the game are toned down, but also more complex. I think that one review that I looked at more or less said that. It's toned down because you have a lot of less of the features that you had in 1 and 2 that made it really complicated. Especially the levels. All the levels of the skills are now 1 to 5 rather than 1 to 10. Abandoned God Arch are far easier to come across. Other things like that are fairly simple and easy. Now, number 3 also adds burst arts, as I said. Burst arts are blood arts, but you can have 3 of them, and they're all broken. Well, not quite as all broken. There's one. I used the small blade. And there's one that I loved. It was Rising Edge on steroids, and it just tore apart any large origami. Which, to be fair, was probably my fault for making it really hard. Like, thinking it would be really hard. Apparently, God Eater 3 has the lowest standpoint of difficulty out of all of them. This could be because of the new dive mechanic. Excel triggers being really easy to pull off, especially the one I started using later game, which was the Assassin. That one's really easy to use. Engage isn't quite as broken as you might think. Burst, let's see, when you devour, you don't get an origami bullet anymore. You only get a link bullet, which really is what you use the origami bullets for anyway. But I kind of miss the super crazy attacks that can come out of them. Maybe it was too difficult to do it in HD, I don't know. And that's about it for that. I want to go over Soma a little bit more. Simply because he's in the game, but he's not really used. He's called Ein. Well, that's what you know him as. And it's very clear it's Soma. He has the look, he has the attitude, and all of this. He is about 30 by the point of this game coming out. And the other way we know is that at the end he shows us his god arc, and it's the classic white god arc he has. He has the blood art, and he's probably the most interesting character in the game because we don't know anything about him. Which ties into my next thing about updates. Apparently this game is not going to be getting a ultimate version similar to Rage Burst or Resurrection. So, from what the developers have said on Twitter and other things, that there's going to be free updates. Basically, as you get the updates, there'll be new story progress, new scenarios, and all of this. It kind of ties into how Soma works, because he kind of feels like basically when you talk to him for the one time, he basically like kind of goes on like, oh, he's going to bring you with you. But then you go into rank 7, there's no story missions, they're all optional. So, I don't really know. Maybe if I do a few of the optional missions, it would show up. But I kind of like am waiting to do rank 7 until the game basically goes, hey, you, come here. I have a new update for you. Here you go. So I'm going to keep it installed on my PC. Maybe I'll do a stream of it at some point, but I don't really. The other thing that I forgot to put earlier in this thing about mechanics is clothing and the crafting. Crafting is the exact same as it was, so it's no big deal. Clothing is a lot less. Now, that's both a good and a bad thing. It's good because you get a finer selection of some of their best. It's not so good because I can't wear my really cool coat that I had in God Eater 2 and God Eater 1 that I really love. It's one of the outfits that I basically go, as soon as I get it, I literally just wear it all the time. It's the only thing I wear. I don't care what anything else is. And it's one of the few that actually makes sense to wear. It's basically the equivalent of a trench coat and pants and a shirt. It looks nice. It's clean. I like it. So, thank you all. So, as a recommendation for this game, could I recommend it? As I said earlier, I don't recommend it if you don't own Rage Burst. You're not going to get a discount on it. So I'm just going to straight say, get Rage Burst. You get 2 games out of it. You get over 200 missions out of it. It's way more worth it. God Eater 3 has about 70 missions right now. At the time of recording, and also has a fair story. It also requires a fairly beefy PC. It requires about the same beefiness as Monster Hunter World. It looks about the same. And all of that. So, that's a warning. Second, more or less the quality of missions are kind of lower. But they're also higher in some ways. Some of the origami are unique. But once again, as I said, 2 is likely your better option. 3, because it will also give you the 20% discount. Actually, I don't even think the 20% discount's on anymore. So I think you'd have to buy for full price, even if you did have Rage Burst. So I apologize. Though if you can get if you can get 3 for a discount, like 50% off, or even 30% off, it would probably be pretty worth it. I spent about 20-ish hours on it. And that's just because I'm really good at the game. Like, legitimately, almost every time I've done an assault mission, I've come first in the amount of damage and support done. Simply because I've played the game so much. That's literally, I know almost all of the enemy patterns. It's still probably not the best bet of your money. Now, for long-term God Eater fans, and you have Rage Burst, and you have a bit of money to spend, I would say God Eater 3 is probably one of the best purchases you can make in 2019 right now. Simply because it's more God Eater. 2, it feels like God Eater. Rage Burst, even though I think it's my favorite God Eater game, sometimes doesn't feel like it. It sometimes feels a little slow. 3, I legitimately, sometimes I spent 10 minutes on a mission, and I didn't even notice. I thought it wasn't even 10 minutes. That's how much fun that 3 can be. Now, most of the time the missions went off with about 6 minutes, so it's not too bad. So, hopefully you've all enjoyed this little review of mine that I probably won't be doing too much of. But hey, if I do it, I'll make sure to mention it. And all the footage you've been seeing up to this point is just simply me playing random missions in God Eater 3, and me cutting between different missions, simply because I really don't want to show off the hub. I didn't talk about the hub. It's terrible. Your walk speed is legitimately garbage. The only benefit is you can see theme all the time. Okay, see you here next time with more random news. Bye-bye. Just a quick edit, actually. I just recently found out there's actually a sprint button for the hub. So anytime I was yelling about not really having any speed in the hub, please ignore it. You just press, I think it's right bumper on the controller. So sorry, sorry, Bandai Namco. I didn't want to bash on your game that much, but other than that, it's pretty good. See you here next time, I guess. Bye.